what has it been like to be an immigration attorney right now?
Stories are very heavy, and especially in this climate right now where things are changing all the time, it's really easy for someone to feel like my attorney's lying to me. I am volunteering, helping people with their credible fear interviews. My parents are sit-in parents. They're civil rights activist parents. I'm really interested in freedom. Where does that start?
Never hesitate to call, 'cause I'm your sister, and always for you. And don't know what I'd ever do without you from the beginning to the end. You've always been here right beside me, so I'll call you my best friend.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Sisters-in-Law. Today I have a very special guest. I have Abby the attorney, y'all. She is here with me live in person. I'm so excited. I've been watching her content on TikTok. If you're not following her. So we're going to get into all the things about immigration law, your whole journey, why you went to law school, why you chose that practice field, and just like advice that you'll have for people who want to get into that. So just to start, please introduce yourself and then just tell me like why your journey to law school. Like let's just start there.
Oh my gosh, that's such a long story. So I graduated and thought I wanted to be a professor. So I went to work on my master's degree at Florida State. My undergrad is University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, Hawk Pride. And my bachelor's was in criminal justice. So I went to get my master's in criminology, and I literally thought I would just be a professor, maybe even become an expert. Yeah. Like an expert in trials, like is what I was kind of like thinking of, publish a bit. Then while I was working on my master's degree, I decided that I hated each and every one of my professors. They were so uninterested in me as a person. It was so different from my undergraduate experience that I was like, oh, if this is what being a professor is, like chasing money outside of being a teacher, I actually am not made for that. And at the same time, I was working, I worked first at the methadone clinic, and then I worked for the jail administration in Tallahassee, Florida. And so I got to work with attorneys. So I said, oh, the same thing the attorneys are doing, you know, I could do that, and I'm only getting paid $33,570 per year. That was my pay for the jail. Yes. One of the lawyers that I worked with asked me if I wanted to go to class with him because he was on third year practice act. And so I went to class with him at Florida State Law School. I loved the class. I just love school, actually.
Yeah, me too.
And so I started, you know, studying to take the LSAT. I went to law school at Mercer. Mercer, if you don't know, is a private institution in Georgia. It was also the year that Obama was running for president. So great time to be at a private, formerly very, very white Christian school.
So this is like 2007.
Yeah, 2006, 2007.
Okay.
I graduated 2009. Of course, in 2009, the world started falling apart, and well, 2008-ish. And so the firm that had given me my offer the year before, they said, we'll keep you, but we can't keep you in that area. We're having to restructure some things. So you'll go into insurance instead, insurance defense, workers' comp. So that's what I did for 5 years. I did learn a lot doing it, but it is not, for me, fulfilling. Like, the best thing I could do in that job is save an insurance company a bunch of money. And that's the top out of what you can do there. And I was looking for other ways to satisfy my soul while I was in that job, thinking, okay, if the job doesn't bring me satisfaction, but it does bring me a lot of money, the pay was good, I can just find other ways outside of work to satisfy myself. So I volunteered doing citizen review panels for foster care kids. I became a foster parent. I was doing all these random things, and then eventually it just collapsed in on me because there wasn't enough I could do outside of work to make up for the fact that I wasn't satisfied in my job, and I was dealing with an extreme amount of racism and sexism. And since that time, I have learned the words that I didn't know at that time, which is the cross between racism and sexism, because a lot of times things happen at that job I couldn't explain to other people why it was uncomfortable or why I was bothered, because I didn't have the language then to do it. So around the same time, like, I'm just not satisfied, I'm not fulfilled. My son, who I haven't mentioned at this point yet, I went to law school with a 3-year-old.
That you fostered, or this is like
this is my actual factual biological child. Was learning Spanish in school. He'd come home one day and said to me, I can't talk to the other kids at the playground because they're all speaking Spanish. I want to learn Spanish. With me having this issue at work, with him having that issue at the same time, I decided we should just move to Mexico.
Oh. He said you skipped like the major cities, but you just said, let me just go to Mexico.
Let's just move. It's
What
easier.
city in Mexico?
San Luis Potosí.
Oh, so you weren't even in like a touristy.
No.
Wait, but did you switch jobs?
Yes, completely
okay.
switched jobs. I interviewed for jobs in Peru, Colombia, Mexico.
Wait, and sorry. So when you moved to Mexico, new job, bankruptcy, different practice area, like what?
So I was not doing that at all.
Okay.
Took completely off of doing law. I was just teaching English.
Okay.
But you can do HR stuff down there. Like if you
Okay.
want to be more professional. Like, I'm not saying teachers are not professional, but I was looking for something that was lower pressure. So I would have a chance to recuperate and just like repair my soul. I was down there crying every day for the first couple of months.
Okay.
Just reliving different experiences. I was just wanting to have like an easy life, relax a little bit, let my son have this experience, learn a language, have people take me more seriously when I say I want to switch to immigration. Because I tried before and I wasn't really taken seriously because of lack of experience, lack of language. But this time I was like, okay, in the breakdown, I still had a plan.
Yeah, so there was still order.
Right, there was order to my chaos.
Yeah.
Like my parents were very much like, why are you leaving your 6-figure job?
Yeah.
My parents are sit-in parents. They're civil rights activist parents. So for them it was like, okay, somebody called you a name. You're still making money, what's the problem? Like I can't compare the severity of my workplace to the severity of being spit on. So it was just like very hard to explain why I couldn't survive it. So anyway, I go down there and I buy a couple of immigration books. I read them while I'm there. I work, I decompress, I lose weight, I get healthy, I have healthy foods around me. I come back and I work at the border between Texas and Mexico at Dilley, which has been in the news a lot now recently, Dilley Detention Center. And I am volunteering, helping people with their credible fear interviews, helping people put their asylum applications together, helping people request bond. And now I can fully return to a job in the U.S. being taken seriously as a person who wants to pursue immigration.
I love that though, because it doesn't sound like a straightforward path, but then it also kind of is though.
It like goes together.
It goes together.
Everything that I've done, it sounds like a hodgepodge. But they have really helped me in some way. Working at the jail, working at the methadone clinic, like even though I never went into criminal law, these things were still helpful in conducting depositions, learning how to read people, learning about addictive processes. Like they all helped me in some way. And I'm not one of those like everything happens for a reason people. Like sometimes things are just bad. Sometimes things are just bad. However, I have been able to pull something from all of these experiences.
So you mentioned before you even went to Mexico, you were kind of like trying to get into immigration, but then, so what sparked that? Or was, what kind of sparked your even interest in that area at all?
Okay, so coming from a home where we did talk about civil rights movements, I've always seen the connection between liberation for certain populations being tied to liberation for everybody. And I think that if we start at a Black trans woman immigrant and work our way up, then that's how we can find liberation for everybody. So I'm like, okay, I'm really interested in freedom. Where does that start? Where do I fit in? Where do I find satisfaction and I also have knowledge and expertise? Immigration.
So when you came back to the U.S., now you're like working in, like, are you at a law firm or like what's
So I first volunteered right there on the border. So that was just a volunteer with a Cara Pomona project. Shout out to Latrice Latin who invited me to come with her. I was like, okay, I'm coming back to the U.S. I need to figure out how to
how long were you in Mexico?
Just for a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a good amount of time to like kind of like
it was a good, I did want to do an extra year, but my co-parent was not interested in giving me permission to stay out of the country for another year.
Gotcha.
So, 1 year is fine. And so she was like, okay, well, I'm getting ready to do this volunteer thing at the border. So why don't you come there with me first and then figure out what to do from there. And so after that, she left, I stayed, and then I started applying for jobs in DC, New York, and Miami.
Okay.
Miami, I didn't offer anything. Miami it's just really oversaturated. And I was refusing, like everybody that I was around was saying, you could say you're fluent in Spanish, but I was refusing to say I was fluent because I didn't want to get somewhere and then stumble.
Yeah.
So,
and they're like expecting you to have like these full, and then your legal conversations in Spanish.
Very
not
different.
Even just casual conversations.
Exactly.
That's a whole nother level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like the time that I spent at Dilly, my conversations in Spanish were far different from all the conversations that I had before that, because I didn't need to know the words for threat, rape, war, I didn't need to know these words. And then also the convergence of dialect and slang. So I needed time to catch up on that. Anyway, so DC was where I got offered a job first.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, on the way to DC. I started off with just some like temporary stuff here and there, doing some appearances here and there. Then I got offered a full-time job at the first place I went to in Alexandria. Then I went to work for this place in Herndon. I went to work for another place in Tysons. And I went to work one more place before I started working for myself. This last place was the final straw where I was like, I simply can't work in somebody else's environment. That place I did end up suing. People keep asking me like if I sued any of the places that I worked for discrimination or whatever. Only the last place. Okay. I only was able to commit to filing a lawsuit against them once I accepted I'm just going to work for myself.
Got you.
It's settled, so I can't talk too much about it, but it's satisfactory to have finally done it.
Good. Getting into like the actual practice, like I'm sure there are pros and cons, and especially in this climate, just what has it been like to be an immigration attorney right now?
So one of the first things that I did was decide exactly what kind of cases that I want, what is okay for my mental load, what can I take? And I decided that detained cases were too stressful for me working by myself. Working at a firm where you have other people who can manage all of the phone calls, you can do detained cases pretty decently. But working for myself when I have to be available 24/7, because you don't know when your detained client's going to have access to a phone, that was too stressful for me. So I was like, okay, no detained cases.
Okay.
So I do family petitions, so that's going to be spousal, mother petitioning for a child or a child petitioning for a parent.
Okay.
I do abuse-based cases, so that's going to be women who are in relationships with a U.S. citizen or a resident and they're being abused. Or if you're a victim of crime in the United States, so you're a victim of domestic violence, stalking, sexual assault of some kind, trafficking, labor trafficking, and sex trafficking. Also for children, we do special immigrant juvenile status. So I do more of those. I have processed a few business style applications. So people who are self-petitioning as experts in their field. I've done a few of those. Those are not my favorite. It doesn't feel as satisfactory as helping someone who's been harmed in some way. So that's what I stay more of, more in, like asylum.
It's heavy. So how do you how do you deal with work? I know you said it's satisfying for you, but what is that like for you?
So I keep my overhead very, very small. And when you have a small overhead, you don't have as much pressure to take every single client.
Okay.
So if I have someone come to me that I think is going to be a little bit much in terms of their story or in terms of what their demands are, what they need from an attorney, I feel more free to turn them away. I take breaks. Okay. So any trips that I want to take are on my calendar about a year in advance. Okay. So I make sure that I don't accept any court dates or appearances that are going to follow during that time, because the stories are very heavy. Yeah. The things that people are trusting you with and the way that you have to speak to them is very difficult sometimes. I have let clients go as well if I feel like they need more of a punching bag than they need an attorney. Okay. Because that does happen sometimes. Yeah. And when I was working for other people, that you have no choice but to just take it.
Yeah.
But for me, working for myself, I could say, hey, we're not working out together.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I can't take much more of these accusations that you're making against me out of your own anxiety, because they'll acknowledge it at some point. They'll be like, oh, I was just nervous, or I was just worried, or I was just this, or I was just that.
It's easy to like have a scapegoat and be like, it's because you're not doing your job or something. Yeah.
Like, and especially in this climate right now where things are changing all the time, it's really easy for someone to feel like my attorney's lying to me just because I changed what the plan was from the time that you met me and you signed the contract to present. Or if I ask for more money, then they'll feel like I'm doing so. So what's happening right now is the government is filing motions to, they call it pre-termit, which is to dismiss somebody's asylum case and have them sent to a different country, which is not their home country. Well, at the time that we signed the contract, that wasn't contemplated. And that's a whole different thing for me to respond to, whole different court, research. And now we have a whole separate court date with a mini trial on this motion that was not contemplated in the initial contract. But if I come and say that to you, hey, you've already paid me X amount of money to handle your case, but now you have to pay me this much more money, that's difficult for somebody on the outside to understand if they don't already, especially if they already have mistrust.
And they're already in a vulnerable position.
Right.
They're already like, now someone else wants something from me. Like, what else?
Right.
Like,
But on the flip side, am I supposed to just do all this work for free?
No.
Because it does take extra time. It's not, for me, it's not a money grab. I understand that some people do that sometimes, like, oh, they already have the document prepared and they're just going to use it over and over again. It's a money grab. For me, it's not, because each time that it happens, it's a different country. And I have to establish what your relationship is to that country. That's a different conversation that we've never had to have before.
I'm just like always kind of like, do you nickel and dime other people like this? And I get I'm not doing something as heavy, but it is always kind of like in the back of my mind a little bit. Does that happen to you too?
Oh yeah, I'll say it out loud. In the initial consultation, when people try to negotiate prices with me, I will say to them, have you had other consultations? Is it my price reasonable? Because I know what my prices are. I've worked in different places all over the DMV. So I know where I set my prices. So when you ask me for a discount, you're asking me for a discount with the knowledge that I'm giving you a good price. How do you feel about that? And I'll tell them, if you haven't, then go do some consultations other places and let me know. And then if they say, well, I know you're giving me a good price, and I said, well, then do you think I'm not worth it? Or you think I'm not worth it? Well, and they'll say, well, I was always taught to ask for a discount. Okay, well, here we've arrived that you don't have a discount.
And when you ask, sometimes the answer is no. How long have you been in this space? Like immigration specifically? It sounds like it's been a while.
We're at 10 years now.
Yeah, I would say it sounds like a decade. Okay, yeah. So especially like being able to even say that, like you're coming to somebody with a decade of experience, I'm already giving you a good price. Like, you know, there's not much more I can do. Yeah. For someone who is watching this and wants to be an immigration attorney or who's interested in this, what would you say? Like, would you advise this area? What are some tips they should know? Just like anything for them.
Well, I would look at, what is your definition of success first? Like, if you have what, will you feel successful? And then you can decide, does this practice area meet my needs for what success means for me? That's how I would.
That's a great framing. Yeah.
That's how I would look at it.
Yeah.
So like when I first graduated from law school, I wanted to make more than I made going in. Remember, I was making $33,571 a year.
I love that you have the exact
number. I want to make more than I made coming in, and I want to be able to afford to get a massage and a facial every month. Those were my goals going into law school.
And that's paid off. The skin looks great.
So my first job at the law firm that I was going to in Marietta was $75,000. Okay. For me, that was a huge come up from where I was. I figured out in real time, after those very low requirements, what I need to feel successful. So, you know, it might change over time, but that's what I would ask yourself. Like, what are the markers for me that would make me happy, and what practice area might I find those in? I think in immigration, you find more practitioners who are more on the liberal side. Not every single one. We do still have some Republicans and some Trump supporters even still within immigration. I know it's a conundrum, but you will find that. But it is a lot more liberal leaning than working in insurance defense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you could consider, what kind of people do I want to be around? What kind of environment do I want to be around? And what will I miss? Like, I miss a cross-examination. I loved when I was doing insurance defense and I could take something all the way to trial, because they would let us go to trial pretty frequently. I loved a cross-examination and I was good at it. And in immigration, we don't get to cross anybody.
Yeah. So what's the day-to-day like? That, like, people should, like, understand that.
Yeah, so it's all direct.
Yeah.
So when we do go to trial, my client is being put up for questioning. My witnesses are being put up for questioning my client's witnesses. We never get to have an ICE officer come in and testify, or a Customs and Border Patrol agent come in and testify. We have to accept what their writings are. So I don't ever get to do a cross-examination.
I see. What would be, like, just your takeaway for yourself about how you arrived at where you are today?
It was the path for me. You know, I don't think that I could have skipped any steps and still be peaceful now.
So the way I found you was on TikTok. So obviously you make content. So what kind of, I know we kind of talked about this before we started rolling, about, like, you weren't even talking about this kind of stuff when you first started making content, but what's your decision making there when you decide to kind of talk about this a little bit online? And do you have certain guardrails or boundaries for yourself about how much work you talk about and things like that?
So I started making TikToks for my work account to get clients.
Okay.
Started a separate account just so I could talk about just random things that interested me, about being a foster parent, about sexism, racism, and racism in the workplace. And I think my very first video is so bad. It's just me, just like on the toilet in the bathroom. Just talking about how I didn't really want to be an entrepreneur, but I was forced into it because people wouldn't let me just go to work and do work.
Yeah.
It always had to be like something extra that they were bothering me about. And so I just made a video talking about it and kind of having that realization and saying, I can say whatever I want. And then, like, as soon as I hit 10,000 followers, I was like, and I can make money? Got my first little PayPal transfer on TikTok, and I was like, oh, there's no stopping me now. So on YouTube, I do live reviews of 90 Day Fiancé, but that's it.
Great for, like, immigration stuff.
Yeah, so I started off giving, like, okay, let me give you the immigration perspective on this issue. So now we do everything. Before, I would only make videos about if there was a specific immigration issue, but now we do everything, and I'll just stop sometimes, be like, hey, I want to talk about this immigration issue that's happening here, but then we'll go back into whatever silliness and dating and yapping and whatever about the show. So it's good.
Well, please, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your story, but please let them know where to find you, where to contact you, where to add to that PayPal check.
Yes. So you can see me at Abby Winters 80. It's the same across all platforms: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, at Abby Winters 80.
Yes, well, thank you so much for coming on. I hope y'all learned something from her journey. I hope you learned something from her story. You're so interesting. I love hearing about your journey. I love hearing about all the people we have on in their journey, because it's always so different, and that's, like, the beauty of this series. So if you like this video, please comment down below your favorite part. Please follow Abby on all platforms, and let us know who you'd like to see next. And we'll see you next time. Bye.